Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson will spend this offseason trying to convince their respective franchises that they are worth a long-term extension. Matt, I have a very simple question for you. Between Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, who deserves that long-term contract extension just a little bit more?
I think Lamar Jackson deserves it just a little bit more, but I'll preface this by saying that both of these quarterbacks are exciting, they're electric, and the arguments are going to be very, tight.
They both deserve it.
They both absolutely deserve it, to be clear. But Lamar Jackson, to me, not just because of the MVP and what he did in the playoffs last year as far as, getting over that first-round hump that he hadn't been able to do, this is a guy that is just electric, and when you see him on the football field, he automatically makes the Baltimore Ravens better. When he wasn't hurt this season, and that's a big part of it, is granted he does have a little bit of an injury bug because of how he plays.
Sure.
But even with all of the injuries that the Ravens suffered right at the beginning of the season and the issues that they had at wide receiver, the issues they had at running back, when Lamar Jackson was on that field, the Baltimore Ravens had as good of a chance as any team to go out there and win a football game and win the division and make a run in the playoffs. And because of that, you have to give Lamar his credit. You have to pay this man because he's going to continue to allow the Ravens to be successful and to play above what they actually should look like as far as the roster and give them a puncher's chance no matter who's out there. I think the perfect example was that game against Kansas City where Harbaugh is either deciding, go for it, 4th and 1, or punt the ball. And he looks at Lamar and he's like, go for it? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
And they went for it, and Lamar got it and iced the game for him. So that's why Lamar Jackson deserves that paycheck.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. And like I said at the top, both of these guys are ultra deserving of a mega contract extension, and it better happen before next season rolls around. But I just want to remind people, in the 3 seasons since Kyler Murray was drafted #1 overall by the Arizona Cardinals, he was the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been to 2 Pro Bowls since that. I also want to remind people what it takes to draft #1 overall. Yep. You have to be awful. And that's what the Arizona Cardinals were before drafting Kyler Murray #1 overall. They were 3-13 the season before he arrived. And Kyler has improved this team's record ever since he's been the starter. 5-10-1 his first season as a starter, 8-8 the season afterwards, and obviously this past season 9-5 as a starter. And this has been the trajectory of the Arizona Cardinals since Kyler Murray has been their starter. He completed 69% of his passes this season, which was second only to Joe Burrow. And he's the best runner of the football at the quarterback position in the NFL, not named Lamar Jackson. So you drafted him if you're the Arizona Cardinals, #1 overall. He's been a slam dunk, and you know what that means. You got to pay him. There aren't many franchise quarterbacks just hanging on a tree that you can just go grab at any point. You got one. You have one in Kyler Murray. Make sure he's happy, and especially since you had the audacity to go give Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury a contract extension, knowing Kyler is waiting in the wings for a contract extension of his own. So the answer is obviously Kyler Murray to me. But again, Lamar Jackson, I do want to talk a bit about him and why I give Kyler Murray the edge. Lamar, as much as I love him, as electric as he is, as explosive as he is, I still have questions about him as a passer. Mm-hmm. He has not improved enough to me. To be honest, he's regressed. He was awesome during that MVP season. The best player in football, obviously. But since then, he's regressed as a passer. His touchdowns have dropped every year since then. His interceptions have gone up every year since then. This past season, he threw 16 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. That doesn't exactly scream a payday. Although he's deserving, that doesn't exactly scream a payday. When, again, you have somebody like Kyler Murray who is a bona fide elite passer of the football, a legit top 5-ish quarterback with the exit of Tom Brady from the NFL. So Kyler Murray is the answer here. What do you think about that?
Well, I understand where you're coming from as far as the passing, because it's obviously Kyler Murray is the better passer. You can just watch, and the stats show that. I think the thing, though, you also look at is the Ravens have been all in on Lamar basically up until this point where they have to give him an extension. Mm-hmm. Right now, the Cardinals seem all in more on Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. To your point, they added those. There is this drama for some reason that we've already talked about before with the Cardinals and talking about Kyler's issues as far as being a leader and all of that. You've never hear this out of Baltimore with Lamar, and if anything, you've seen them come back with Lamar and use him to, make it to the playoffs. Not this season, but the previous season, they had fallen apart and they were able to get it to the playoffs. and actually beat the Titans. And so I think that Lamar is kind of shown that he's a winner. Whether he's going to pass the ball well or not, he's going to give you a chance to win a game.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen those dip-offs like you have with Kyler, with the Arizona Cardinals, in particular this past season, where it looked like from the beginning of the season they were going to be, the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. There was a bit of a dip-off. I think that Lamar is going to just, if he can stay healthy, he's going to always be a factor. Whether it's the passing or not, it doesn't matter. He's going to help you win.
100%. Both of these guys are going to help you win. And
Yeah.
obviously the evidence is there for Kyler when you talk about the record since he took over as a starter. But again, like I just said, both of these guys can help you win. But if we're comparing these two, we're splitting hairs, obviously.
We definitely are splitting hairs.
Because these are two electric, awesome quarterbacks. But, I have to look at what's been surrounded by them. Again, I mentioned Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. The Cardinals were awful. Where was Lamar Jackson taken? The last pick of the first round, which means Baltimore Ravens were set up very nicely, and they still are. Baltimore Ravens have had a defense since Lamar Jackson has been in town. I don't know if I can say the same exactly for Kyler Murray in Arizona. The Baltimore Ravens have been well coached for as long as Lamar Jackson has been in Baltimore. I cannot say the same for Arizona, despite the money, the contract extension that Cliff Kingsbury just got. So again, all those things need to be taken into consideration. Both of these guys are deserving, but if I had to give one the money at this point, it'd be Kyler.
Right.
But that's going to do it for us in another week of Simple Question. Catch us on Monday's episode, and we'll see you then. For Scott Proctor and Matt Morris, we'll see you next time.